This is a long overdue compensation denied to them. Hindi na natin sila paghintayin pa, Mr. President. Magkakaroon na sila ng increase sa kanilang sweldo as soon as January of next year.
With 22 affirmative votes, no negative votes, no abstention, House Bill 4228 is approved on third reading.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I believe Senator Bongo would like to deliver an explanation of his vote on the budget.
You may submit. Do you want to submit the explanation of your vote?
I think he prepared, Mr. President. Yes, I'm prepared.
So he wants to read it. All right, Senator Bongo is recognized.
Mr. President, I would like to put on record that I voted in the affirmative, and I would like to take this opportunity to thank the chairman of the Committee on Finance and this body for adopting the much-needed increase in the health budget. Public health should be one of our priorities. As chairman of the Committee on Health, I commend this chamber for approving the additional 7 billion for the Human Resources for Health Deployment Program. This is to ensure the continued employment of our health workers and allow DOH to augment, redistribute, and retain health workers in geographically isolated and disadvantaged areas and economically disadvantaged municipalities. Wala pong mawawala ng trabaho, tuloy-tuloy po ang serbisyo. Mr. President, I also want to commend the Committee on Finance and our distinguished guests, colleagues, for taking measures that would allow us to implement the Supreme Court decision upholding the validity of Section 32 of the Philippine Nursing Act of 2002, which provides that the minimum base pay of nurses working in the public health institutions shall not be lower than salary grade 15. This is a long overdue compensation denied to them. Hindi na natin sila paghintayin pa, Mr. President. Magkakaroon na sila ng increase sa kanilang sweldo as soon as January of next year. Lastly, I laud the increase in the budget of PhilHealth that would enable us to progressively realize universal health care in the country and ensure that all Filipinos are guaranteed equitable access to quality and affordable health care. Again, I ask the DOH, PhilHealth, and all our government agencies to ensure judicious and prudent use of public funds. I trust our agencies will institute reforms to improve efficiency in spending their budgets. Let me also congratulate both houses of Congress for the swift passage of this appropriation measure. I call on my colleagues to ensure smooth deliberations during the bicameral conference proceedings in order to avoid a reenacted budget and ensure the continuous delivery of the most basic services to our fellow Filipinos. Let us work double time to finish the process just in time for the President's signature for the benefit of our countrymen. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Senator Gordon.
Mr. President, just a short manifestation. I would like to congratulate the Chairman of the Committee on Finance, Senator Angara, worthy son to a great father. Certainly, I'm sure his father is very proud of him today because this is first crack at shepherding the budget. And it is important, I'm sure, that we try to send the message in heaven. I also want to take the opportunity, Mr. President, that this Senate has not been sleeping on the job, Mr. President, in the sense that for a long, long time, the nurses in this country had been clamoring for, the adjustment of their salaries, and it took the Supreme Court to come out with a decision that says we can no longer hold it back. This representation has been meeting with nurses. I've run hospitals in the past. I've run nurses in the Red Cross, Mr. President, and they have always talked to us about how badly they're discriminated at. And many a time, the discrimination applies in the sense that they are given jobs at low pay with no benefits, and at the same time, the hospitals, not all of them, but some hospitals take advantage of their situation so that they can get a certification that they have served in a hospital so they can go abroad. Our nurses should not go abroad. There are many, many rural health units, Mr. President, that don't have nurses, that have adequate medical assistance. Many a time and off, you have heard this representation say na 6 out of 10 Filipinos die without ever seeing a doctor. Well, perhaps now nurses would be adequate to help at least for the time being until we can bring doctors to the fore in the rural areas. The increase of nurses of basic salary has been approved by the Senate to a 3.173 billion fund that will convert nurses from nurse 1 to nurse 2. I congratulate the Senate, Mr. President. All of us here deserve a pat on the back because we took heart and compassion with our nurses in this country. Thank you, Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. The Minority Leader wanted to also to explain or to manifest, but he changed his mind.
Thank you.
He changed his mind, Mr. President.
A debt of gratitude to Senator Rino.
Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, I move that congratulations are in order to the gentleman from Aurora. Job well done to our chairman of the Committee on Finance. And Mr. President, with the permission of the body, this is I move that we proceed to the Senate President's designation of the Senate conferees to the Bicameral Conference Committee on the disagreeing votes on House Bill number 4228. These are members of the BICAM, Mr. President. I know this will be very difficult for you, Mr. President, because I believe everyone wants to be a member of the BICAM. Unfortunately, the House has only how many members? The House has only, Congress. 13.
13.
There are 13 members of the House BICAM panel, and the Senate wishes to be 17 members.
I'm looking at the possibility of designating at least 15.
15.
At least 15.
Yes,
all
Mr.
right?
President.
So,
your decision.
with the permission of the chamber, I designate the chairperson of the Bicameral Conference Committee to be Senator Sani Angara, and vice chairpersons would be Lacson, Villar, Cayetano, Gatchalian, Gordon, Marcos, Villanueva, and members Recto, Binay, Po, Drilon, Pangilinan, Hontiveros. 15.
So,
Be sure you attend.
Mr. President, this is history in the making. We have bicameral conference members that are more than the House of Representatives, Mr. President. But that's good
First
because
time in the history.
I think the first in the history. But that's also because we have a number of vice chairmen, Mr. President.
Yes.
We have, I believe, 9 or 8 vice chairmen.
Anyway, as enumerated
Nine
by
members.
the presiding officer, the senators are hereby designated.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe the Minority Leader changed his mind. Yes, a quick manifestation to make.
Senator Frank Rilon, the minority leader, is recognized.
Yes, a little late, but I wish to place of record my appreciation for the work done by the chairman of the Committee on Finance and also to Senator Dick Gordon. He allowed us, this chamber, to terminate the period of interpellation and allow us to finish the budget. He did that by watching the basketball game, Mr. President. Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes, Mr. President. We're highly appreciative.
Huwag ka na
Of
sasagot. Huwag ka na.
Mr. President,
Tama na. Oh.
Senator Dillon and I come from the UP Law School. And if we would be allowed some exaggeration, we belong to the University of Law College of the Philippines. Hindi nakuha ng UST, Mr. President. But you know, we came out, we went to the game, and I think that humanized the Senate because we are not all work here. Once in a while, we have to show our allegiance to our alma mater. Just as Senator Dillon always pays allegiance to his fraternity, Sigma Rho, who counts on stellar fraternity members like Sal Panelo, and of course, we have our own in the Upsilon. And this is what makes for a happy Senate, Mr. President.
Oh, yes.
All the better. So, Mr. President, I would like to congratulate also the discipline of our Senate President, who refused to leave and vacate his position so that he could go to the Letran game.
Oh.
Both of us come from Letran, Mr. President. I come for 4 years of Letran, and I think he went there for several high school and college. But nonetheless, Mr. President, this shows that we are human beings capable of growth and laughter, and, no bickering, and looking at the national interest, including the discipline that we must have so that we will win in the Asian Games. Thank you, Mr.
Thank
President.
you. I know for a fact that you and Senator Dillon and some others come from the best law school in Quezon City.
Yes, Mr. President.
Because
But I'd like to put
there are others who come from the best law school in Makati.
Yes, Mr. President. But, Mr. President, we'd like to put on record also that the tremendous work done by the chair, the vice chair, Senator Gordon, in sponsoring his departments. Because that time, there were two departments, Department of Tourism and Department of PCOO. No one wished to interpolate him. But he interpreted it. But he sponsored it quickly, Mr. President, with no interpolation. That's how much respect we have to the gentleman from Zambales. Mr. President,
All right.
Moving forward, Mr. President, we did work very hard. 2 weeks of work, 13-hour days. We thank everybody for their support. And the staff, especially the Secretariat, Mr. President. Mr. President.